Hello! Today's special guest with me on the podcast is a multimedia artist inspired by people, places, and community, celebrating the uniqueness of people, capturing life as it unfolds. And I thought it would be amazing to bring this artist in today to get some behind the scenes information and really understand the journey of a practicing artist all the way from Canada, our lovely Carole Ince. Welcome.
Oh, thank you so much, Michelle, for having me.
You are very, very welcome. I was just saying to Carole before we hopped on that it's been a long time. And in fact, I think the first ever time we've featured one of our members on the podcast, because it's always me rabbiting on, but we used to do these sessions years ago as live videos. So it's so nice to have you, Carole, and you're the first of this
Oh my,
series.
it's such
And so let's talk about where you're at right now in your art and what kind of artist you are. And then we're going to jump back to the journey and how that's unfolded. So, what's going on in your life at the minute? What materials do you use? What art are you making? You've just had a solo show, haven't you? Which has been a long time in the making. So, tell us a bit about what's going on.
so I'm kind of in a really good place right now. I feel like I'm in the flow. Things are happening. So I have um kind of two main collections. One which I call my community collection, and it's a series of paintings of people in my community. Um, and I will be, I've been, and they're oil. I have different sizes, although I love to paint large. And I'll be, I've been exhibiting them like kind of one at a time for the last year and a half in some community galleries. But now I've been
Yeah.
accepted in kind of two juried art fairs this summer. One of them being this fair that I've gone to since I was like, I don't know, for the last 10 years, just wishing that maybe someday I'd be part of it. So I'm just really, really excited about finally showing this collection to a broader public. And then during the pandemic, I did a kind of a deep dive in another project, which was women's hands. And I produced like 60 paintings of just women's hands doing things, contributing to the world. And I had a solo show last summer. And actually, I have 35 that are exhibited right now in an encasement, which is kind of really exciting. I'm getting such good feedback.
Oh, tell us more about that then. What is that encasement?
Well,
Where are they?
it's
Those
in
people.
a community space where I'm part of a co-op gallery, um, and there is a space in a hallway that's like two big, like 6 feet wide each, glass encasements. And so
Wow.
I was asked if, or I was selected to be part of just, to showcase my art for a whole month. So I kind of put 35, everything that I could fit within this space. And it's really exciting because my initial exhibit, I had a very long hallway, and I had them exhibited like one beside the other, which was really important for equity. I wanted all the hands to represent equity. But now in this
Hmm.
encasement, it's kind of integration. Like everybody is included and integrated in this one space together. So it kind of has a little bit of a different feel, but just as important to me.
Oh, I love how that ties in with your mission around community and inclusivity and how that's really interesting, isn't it, about how the work is presented? Because we often think about the work speaking, but the way the work is presented has a message as well. And I really love that idea of how you've just
Mm.
described that.
And the idea of
Yeah.
community also, like this was an aha moment that came from the hub, and it came from a discussion, well, that you brought about trying to tie my work together. Because I also have kind of another side project, which is faces. I did like 45 sculptures of faces with, and this had a mental health um, kind of theme to it. But and I was trying to tie them together, and you're the one that brought that together, the idea of community and how they, and it's all about people and community and belonging. So that was really important to me to tie these three together.
And that's a great example of how you've been able to play around with your subject matter, because often people think that like you've painted hands, and then we've talked before, haven't we, about having collections and people feel pigeonholed and that's it. I've got to create hands for the rest of my life. But you're a great example of finding that thread that ties your work together, that enables you to explore those different subject matter and forms that you're
Yeah, because I
developing.
do understand the concept of kind of having one one target, one collection, but I can't
Hmm.
kind of do that. I have,
Yes,
but
yeah,
having been able to tie them together really helps, and having kind of really
yeah,
distinct products that I can tie
yeah.
together in my mission or in my on my website, that's important.
Mm. And we're going to jump to your journey because I think it's important to share, because I recognize there are people probably out there right now that look at people like you and other artists who have had a solo show, and you have the big collection of artwork, and you've got this artwork being exhibited somewhere. And sometimes people look at someone else's chapter 20 thinking I should have all of that in place, and that hasn't always been the case. And I want to really dig into that today. But before I do, I just want to ask you a question that I'm afraid that I'll forget, and that's just talking about your practice. When you said that you like to have multiple things going on, could you tell us a little bit more about that, how you approach your work? Do you have different collections going on, or do you focus on one collection at a time? What does that look like for you?
Well, I mean, I essentially have three, but it's kind of three very different markets. So face
Hmm.
tiles, I've been able to, like last year, I did a few outdoor craft shows. So this is not fine arts. I'm not accessing kind of the fine arts shows through that. And now actually the market is really outdoors. I market them. They could be garden art. They could be,
Mm.
so and actually I just created some other tiles that are tulips. We have a big tulip festival, and I'm not a painter of tulips, or I'm not a landscape artist or flower artist, but I like sculpting. So I created these specifically to market during the tulip festival. Kind of like to be able to bring in some quick uh, cash.
Yeah,
So um,
yeah.
so that's how I look kind of that collection. And
Mm.
collections is kind of essentially, I mean, I could keep going on and on, and because I'm actually selling, I've sold maybe a third of the collection. So I would like to keep it up because I'm not finished exhibiting. I would love this to be able to tour. I do
Mm.
some curriculum around like kind of the concept of equity and diversity, and
Yeah,
we talked
yeah.
about I mind mapped, uh, able to do
Mm.
work in schools. Um, and I'm taking a class right now that's kind of pushing my art, and the teacher is really interested in my art, my hand paintings. He described them as illustrative, and he wants me to push it to more fine arts. So I'm really working at trying to refine my painting skills. Um,
Mhm.
so, and that potentially will have a whole other project around that I'm kind of applying a little bit for some seed funding for another project. Um,
Yeah.
and then
Sounds.
my community collection, like this is really kind of the my heart and soul, and it's what excites me going around, trying to find exciting things in my community that make me happy, that I feel that is going to make other people happy, that bring color, that demonstrate my vibrant community. And that's going to be ongoing. That's kind of what I really want to continue to paint.
Mm. That's the ongoing work. Oh, you just reminded me. Actually, you said you've got a painting, haven't you, that you've had on the go as well for many, many years.
I moved into this house. I have this large, the first thing I did when I moved into this space, I'm in the basement. I've got a beautiful big workspace, and I just bought huge paper and I plastered a whole wall, and I started sketching, and then I collage on it. And anyways, it's been 5 years. So when I'm restless or I'm kind of out of ideas, I pull that out, I play with it.
Oh, I love that. You've inspired me. When I move, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to have something up that I can just keep returning to. I love that there's that kind of like no end, art with no end.
Yes, well, hopeful, and maybe it will not. I don't.
Maybe-
Maybe
yeah, who knows? Yeah, maybe it will, maybe it won't. And so, right, so you've got those three collections going on. So that's keeping you very busy. And then, so do you find that you, in a typical day, would you then flip between those different collections, or is it dependent on how you feel, or what's going on a typical day for you, or is there not a typical day?
uh, yeah, I guess it depends on what I really go with what I feel. And it depends also, I mean, I'm taking a class right now, and so I have some kind of motivation to meet the
Mm.
teacher's expectations. So I would paint according to what he wants. I'm motivated right now to finish a few smaller pieces for upcoming fairs. Um,
Mhm.
yeah, so it depends.
Depends on what your deadlines are and what's
Yeah,
happening. Yeah, yeah.
right now, because this is
And
kind of a real busy creating selling time. This kind of
yeah,
3 months, this springtime. That's what's
yeah.
motivating me mostly.
Yeah, you're in a season of creating right now, which is good. Yeah, you're in your flow.
Right.
Yeah. And so your multimedia, and what do you use mainly? What's your toolkit look like? What have you got in your toolkit that you go to every
Well, I guess
time?
I mean, I love clay. So that's like these tiles. The originals are made of clay. So I always have clay kind of around that I create with.
Yeah.
At some point, I was creating um, pieces to go with the painting. So I kind of had that dream that every painting would have like a wall sculpture beside it to just enhance the story of the painting. So, but I
Mhm.
haven't landed because one of the things that I've been on my bucket list for the last 5 years is a kiln. So, um, so right now I'm making molds and then pouring plaster, but really I want to make unique pieces out of clay. Uh,
Yeah.
so, anyways, I'm working with plaster, with molds, with clay, and with oil.
Yeah. That's what you paint with.
Yes,
Yeah.
I didn't
Yeah.
always paint with oil, but that's my preferred medium right now.
Hmm. Brilliant. And what I'm thinking right now as you're talking, I talk about make art you love and turn what you love into a living. I really feel that you're living up to that whole that whole statement of just. I remember when you found us and you were just channeling that art and your mission and finding yourself and your voice. And then what I love about that statement about making art you love and doing what you love for a living is it's encompassing all parts of being an artist. And I feel like that's where you're heading now. And you've talked about the workshops and learning and education and art is a facet of all of that, and I really see that flourishing now for you, and that's really exciting because I just feel that there's all these opportunities opening up for you that all kind of go towards the bigger picture of your life. Does that make sense?
Well, because I mean, I've I just retired like a year ago from a 40-year career in social services. So my community people have always been like really, really important, kind of a life of service. Like that's been my kind of my work life and my home life, my family life. So
Yeah.
my art is tying into that because I did try landscapes. Like I love landscapes. I have beautiful landscapes that I've bought that are in my home, but I I really learned that that is not my passion. And I tried, and I can copy. And this is where I started with United Art Spaces. I was a really, really good copier, like this um, Canadian landscape artist who I did a trip with to France, and I took some classes with him. He commented what a good copier I was because because I thought his art is so beautiful, but it was really not
Yeah.
my passion. So that was
Yeah.
such an important lesson that I learned through United Art Space, like looking at
Oh,
why,
wow.
doing a deep dive. And I did it like a couple of times. I go back to the seven keys. I've done the why a couple of times, and I just keep anchoring in what I'm passionate about.
Yeah, do you know, I was looking back at notes because for those listening, Carole is a member of United Art Space and joined. I was looking back, it's 3 years ago. And I was looking back at some of the notes of when you first joined us and how you didn't feel like you could call yourself an artist. You wasn't sure what direction you were copying, you were lacking confidence.
Absolutely.
And so that was just 3 years ago. And I know for some people that seems like a long time, but it really isn't. And to see this transformation, it absolutely blows my mind of how you can feel like that. And here today, you're sitting here saying, you know, I feel I'm in my flow and I've got this project going on and I'm learning this and it's all coming together and I've just had a solo show. And like, did you ever imagine that you'd be 3 years on living that life, feeling this way?
Not, and really, it is to the credit of United Arts Space. I mean, I have to, because of the structure, the lessons, I've taken advantage of like everything. Like listen, I
Yeah.
continue to
Yeah.
listen, I continue to go back. Um,
Mm.
and I've been looking this morning, preparing for today, going back to my notes to 3 years ago, and the reflection piece and the mindset, and like it was just so important. The and the
Mm.
structure and being kind of like um, kind of the regular and consistency was
Yeah.
very important. If it was just left up to me, I'd be so scattered, I'd be all over the place. But
Yeah.
the reviewing of the work every month, every week, like what my goals are, like that's kept me going. I really credit that to where I'm at today. Absolutely.
Oh, that makes me so happy. It really does. And I know what you mean because I have to do those sessions as well. I run them, but I have to do them because I'd be the same. I would literally be all over the place. So we do monthly check-ins in our membership called Review Plan Do. And it's just so incredible just to check in with yourself on a monthly basis. So I recommend to anyone listening to do that, to just look at where you've gone or come from rather, and where are you going and pausing for that moment because I think we say it every month, don't we, that we feel like we haven't achieved that much. And when you sit down and look,
I always have that feeling every month until absolutely I till I look at it. I look at
yeah,
what I've accomplished and I'm able to kind of list it and then assess that and make goals for the next month. It's
yeah,
really powerful.
yeah. And you've just done a review plan do of your last 3 years in effect, really, haven't you? So you've just looked back. And I guess, like you were saying, that was such a good exercise for you to do because sometimes we can get stuck in the now thinking, oh, this is hard, or where am I going next? And taking that pause to look back at the last 3 years and everything that you have achieved and how far you've come, but the people that you've impacted as well and the impact on yourself and you, it's mind blowing. So I remember a few years ago when I think it was when you joined one of the studio sessions and you'd done a piece of artwork. I think it may have been lockdown. And do you remember you'd been featured, I think, in the press and you'd met a guy who was singing, he was
Hmm.
busking. And that was kind of the start then of your confidence really growing and stepping out as an artist and saying I'm an artist and finding your way.
Absolutely. Very big step. And so when I
Yeah.
looked at my very first reflection piece, like at the very beginning, before I even joined, I did the kind of a free or a part, whatever, the
Video.
introduction, the seven
Yeah.
days.
Yeah.
And, I
Yeah.
had to write kind of my 5 year big goal. And I had
Mm.
no idea where I was going or what I was going to do. And I was so excited to kind of to read my 5 year goal because I've achieved almost everything, almost like in
Yeah.
3 years. And I kept that I was
Well,
thinking that I would be capable of doing that like 5 years ago, but it was just a structured thinking process, and you're really encouraged to think big. And I would have
yeah.
never had the courage to even think big if it wasn't for that encouragement.
Oh my gosh, isn't that incredible? And you just wouldn't have believed it. And then also, I know that you've mentioned this before, and I want to bring this up because people use age as a barrier. And I know that that crossed your mind as well. And we have people here always reaching out to me saying, I feel like I've left it too late. I feel like it's just, I'm too old to do this now. And you had similar feelings, didn't you? That you just felt that age was a barrier.
I absolutely thought that. I thought like because part of the age gives me some freedom to do art almost, well, full time. Um,
Yeah.
but I feel I don't have enough time. I'm thinking, oh, do I have enough time left? And I wish I was younger. But at one point, you also reflected back to me that I may not have had, if I was younger, I wouldn't have kind of the depth or the thought process that I have now.
Yeah.
And I really
Mm.
believe that. I think that I am so anchored in my why, and I have such deep belief in what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. I wouldn't have had that years ago. I
Yeah. And also that, just thinking about the 3-year journey, and you are in a position now where you've started selling and you've had a solo show and you've got a solid work behind you. Um, and I just want to share this because it's taken 3 years, and a lot of people usually give up in that first 12 months if they don't see things happening. And like I just shared with Carole, having that feature in a newspaper, and some people get disheartened by, oh, it was just this. They belittle these steps that we take. It was just a feature. It was just this. I haven't sold yet. But these steps are so important. And I've watched Carole's journey, and each of those steps have grown Carole in confidence. Carole's work has been moving on during it, and she's been getting more and more clear about what it is and being able to articulate it and improve. And do you agree that, all those
Yep,
steps, just they can't be rushed, and it has to just happen, and trust the process.
trusting the process is important. That you had that I learned also was like building my social proof. Kind of found that
Hmm.
word again in my journals this morning, thinking like that was my goal for really the first 2 years. Was I had nothing in my resume. I wanted
Yeah.
to build in order to apply. And what was really important was not selling, but just building that social proof. So getting some attention, getting my website up, getting, my the social
Yeah.
media, getting some attention. Without
Yeah.
actually necessarily selling. And I'm still not selling like a lot. I'm not making I wouldn't be able to live on what I'm making right now. My big
Yeah.
goal is to be able to bring my husband to the UK on one
Oh.
first class, at least one way. That's kind of um, you know,
Yeah, that's
but
nice.
yeah, so I'm not there yet. I feel, and
Yeah.
in the last 3 years, just even when we review the like the financial goals, I have like doubled every year. So
Yeah.
so my first year I may have sold kind of one thing, and then I had a few commissions, and then so like
Yeah.
yeah, so I'm building up to that for sure.
It builds its momentum. Yeah. And it does all pile up and pile up and pile up and pile up.
It wasn't about
And
selling, it
so,
was really that social proof that I was focusing
yeah.
on. Learned the
Yeah. Yeah.
importance of being able to be kind of credible. And now, like, I'm really proud of my resume. I mean, there's so much kind of more that I could be adding, but it's really good for me.
Yeah. Yeah. And being part of the hub, and I have to say thank you for being part of the hub. You're such a fantastic member, and you're always showing up and you contribute. So it's a credit to you because you put the work in. We guide you, but you definitely put the work in, and that shows. Um, so what do you feel that being part of the hub brings? We've talked about the structure and the fact that we check in each month, and that helps. Is there anything else that you feel that's contributed towards that journey and helped you realize? We talked actually about the why and understanding, because I think it's impacted in many ways, hasn't it?
Absolutely.
Especially around why you want to make and what you want to make, and then the direction that your art has gone in has totally changed from when you first started as well, hasn't it?
And one of the really important aspects of the hub is the support of the hub community. I mean, there's people from all over
Mm.
the world that
Yeah.
are providing feedback, guidance, that people that are at all different levels of success and of transition. And so, oh my God, we're learning so much from each other. Um,
Mm. Yeah.
Remembering this
Yeah.
morning, one of the, I mean, once a month, there's a sharing, what do you call it? A sharing session with people, breakout room.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah, the
remember,
breakout rooms. Yeah.
like last year, and here in Canada, this happens like at 6 o'clock in the morning. So I'm in my pajamas, 6 o'clock in the morning, and I'm speaking to somebody who's in a little cabin in the Pyrenees, smoking a little cigarette while he's talking art.
Oh,
And I'm just like in awe with probably somebody from, I don't know, Ireland or somewhere in the UK, from Croatia, from the States. Like it's
yeah,
brilliant. Uh, so there's a
yeah,
beautiful
yeah. That,
online community where we support each other, but there's also opportunities to see and meet and speak to people. Like it's amazing.
yeah, I agree. It's really exciting to be part of, isn't it?
Absolutely.
And everyone's, it always amazes me because we're all so different. Like if we met in real life, there's nothing really pulling us together in terms of what we have in common, except for we have this amazing passion to make art and get it out into the world, and that's what connects us all, and that's what I find really
Yeah.
special. Like all come from such different backgrounds and locations and cultures, and that's what brings us together. It's great,
Yeah.
isn't
And
it?
even if we have kind of different mediums, I mean, we're all going through kind of the same process. So the
Yeah,
advice that people are able to provide each other, and we celebrate people's successes and build each other up when people are having a real struggle, because we all do. It's
yeah,
been tough, right? Like the pandemic, there's lockdown for the last like 2 of the 3 years that I've been part of United Arts Space. So that was all part of kind of the dynamic and the support and
yeah, yeah. Absolutely. And so I just want to touch now on where did all the art making begin for you? Did you start, was it a childhood thing? Was it later in life? Where did art making
I
begin?
think I've always loved art. I mean, I have magazines here that were from 1943, Michelle, that my mother had. I have this whole series, and it was all. And we used to like look at them when we were little, and copy things, and there were lessons on the color wheel, and like and
Yeah.
this whole. So I've always, and my mother was very creative. She didn't start though painting until she was in her 60s, but she was always very, very creative. I used to
Mm,
drive my bike to the local library when I was little to borrow art books to draw. So I've always loved
yeah.
drawing, painting, coloring, crafting. Um,
Yeah. Yeah. It's always been there. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think, well, I mean, I wish I would have gone to art school, but I've taken, as an adult, I was always taking classes, either in like community classes or at a local, our, uh, our art school, our community school.
Hmm.
Um, so just trying different things. And so it's always been part of my life, but never thinking I'd be doing this full time for sure. Dreaming it,
And
but not believing it.
yeah, because when you joined us, of course, you had a job and that was pretty much full
Absolutely.
time, wasn't it? Was it? Yeah, yeah. So I just want to raise that again because I know there's a lot of people listening who are in a full time job, juggling things on the side. That was Carol. And things can change within the space of a very short time. And I want that to be a really strong message from this because I do always say that you literally, and it's such a cliche to say, but you don't know what's around the corner, and you really don't know what the potential is in 3 years to change your life. And it just takes those steps, like how we were talking about, those steps forwards can be so they feel so tiny at the time, but they are taking you somewhere amazing.
And the time
Um,
was great because I
and
knew that I needed the business side. I
yeah,
always kind of knew, even though I didn't know my why, I knew I had some talent,
yeah,
some like desire, but I really didn't know how to channel it. And I knew nothing about the business side of art.
yeah.
So taking the
And
time
now,
to learn that and to
yeah,
really deep dive into like the lessons and all the guest
yeah.
speakers that you bring in and the books that you recommend. And I mean, I've just learned so much, and I continue to. I mean, I continue to learn every week.
Yeah, me too. And I think that's why we're all learning together,
Yeah,
aren't we? It's incredible because I'm learning alongside you all as well, which I think what makes it really special. We're in this
yeah,
together.
that's what it feels like. Sure.
Um, yeah, yeah. Because none of us have it figured out. None of us. We're all like, and we know that in life, like anything can happen at any point that just throws everything out the window. The pandemic was the biggest realization of that, that we are in control of nothing. And sometimes you think you've got something figured out, and then something changes, you change, the market changes, people
Yeah.
change, and there you go again, and it's this
Yeah.
cycle. Because I think there is a perception sometimes that we get to a certain level, or we reach a certain income, or we get to a certain point where we've got the collection and then we're sorted, or we've got the representation and then that's it. There isn't a point where you get to that and it's like, right, that's it, I'm
Yeah.
done now, I'm sorted. It's never like that. There's always something
Yeah.
else. You're evolving, and then there'll be a new challenge, and then there'll be something else.
Well, and now with the technology and AI and all of that's really,
Yes.
I'm really interested in what am I doing? Interested in
Yeah.
the crypto art. So I've
Yes.
applied to be
Yes.
part of a project, and I site, and
Oh,
I've kind of designed a few pieces, and so I'm excited to see like what that's all about. I'm just really curious. Current class that I'm
that's good.
taking, the teacher is trying to push us to contemporize our art. So he's pushing me to do things that I haven't done before, taking some original pieces and working with an app to just make it more, I don't know, more alive, more brilliant, more, and then actually
Yeah.
take that image and apply it to my pieces. And oh, I'm scared, but I'm excited. And
This is what I love about you. I know you've come into our group so many times saying, I'm doing this, and oh my gosh, I am so scared. And you do it anyway. And that is another great message from this podcast episode, is that it's normal to feel this scariness and this fear, and it's okay to just step forward and do it anyway. Oh, is there any advice that you could share with anyone else? You know, looking back at your journey, if you could maybe give advice back to yourself, maybe those 3 years ago, is there anything that you would look back and say to yourself?
you know, I'm not sure if I'd say anything different than I'm really kind of proud that I stuck with it, that I really invested my heart and I'm going to cry because I'm just so because I do
Yeah.
because I really
Yeah. Well, I'm a crier. Everyone knows that.
uh, um but yes, with
Yeah.
it, and I continue to be
Yeah.
committed, and um I appreciate so much, everything about United Art Space, about yourself, about who you are and how you approach things. And so I'm just like really grateful. And um, so I'm not sure I would have done anything different. Any advice is just to kind of be patient, stick with it, trust the process.
Yeah.
There's just so much good, and so much important information and important steps and important connections to be made.
Mm. Yeah. Oh, that's lovely. And you should, we're all so proud of you. I know I speak on behalf of all of our community as well when I say that you are such an inspiration to all of us, and your determination and tenacity as well is so admired, because that is, such a big part of all of this. It's the days we've got to keep going and get up, and you get rejected and you've got to go again and you've got to go again.
A lot of that, right? There's a lot of rejection. I do
Yeah.
sometimes get really down. I'm a very emotional person,
Yeah.
so I get
Yeah.
excited and I get
Yeah.
really down. And I
Yeah.
appreciate the support so much because I just need to reach out a little bit, and then I just outpouring of support,
Yeah.
which I need, um, and which I cherish. I cherish so much.
Oh, Carole, thank you so much. This has been wonderful. I'm really, really grateful that you've come in today and talked to everyone. I know everyone listening is going to be sending us so many messages saying how inspiring this has been. And if you'd like to follow Carole, where's the best place if people want to go and check out your work and these collections that you're speaking of? Where can people
Well,
find your
probably,
work?
well, on Instagram, I'm quite active on Instagram, which is CGINCE _art. and my website, www.cgince, not underscore the other one. Sorry, I'm French.
Yeah. Is it
Hy-
hyphen? Hyphen.
hyphen art.com.
Brilliant. And we will put those links as well underneath so you can click on them.
Thank you. Thank you.
Fantastic. Oh, no, thank you. Thank you everyone for tuning in and listening. We'll be back again with another episode of the podcast next week. So take care, everyone. Thank you. Bye bye.